Change is so elusive. Wanting to be different than we are is really a chronic global condition. I've spent a lot of my life trying to better myself, wanting to be fitter, wanting to be leaner, smarter, more emotionally intelligent, have more money. And not a lot of the time was spent truly sitting with myself. Really being present with myself, really enjoying the moment and appreciating me and what is. And I know I'm not alone in this experience. And it begs the question as to why do we all do this? And where does the desire to change come from? There's probably not one person here today who doesn't have something on the back burner around what they want to change about themselves, and it consumes so much of our thinking. I want to do this next, I want to be different. But the big question is, and check in with yourself around this, is where is the desire to change coming from? I mean, it's one thing to want to grow and be different, right? And it's a whole other thing as to where that change is coming from. Is the desire coming out of a place of low self-worth or not being good enough? Or is it coming from a place of, gee, I really like who I am and I also just love growing and I love change? The latter has been an ongoing piece of development for me. I was a professional tennis player. My journey started at 7 years of age. That's when I first picked up a tennis racket. By 10, I was nationally ranked. And at 15, I left school to turn professional. And at 19, I had a shoulder injury, which ended my tennis career. I never truly remember making the choice to be a professional tennis player. It just sort of happened to me. So I'm still conflicted. Actually, I'm not that conflicted as to how much I love tennis. I don't think I really loved it. There was a very brief period of time, maybe for a year when I was 12, and I had this amazing tennis coach. I just loved her. You know, why? Because she was so attentive. She loved me. I modelled my slice backhand off of hers, and we just had fun. And I remember my father being very concerned that I was having too much fun and not taking tennis seriously enough. But look, I remember that shoulder injury at 19 and I thought, oh, there was such relief in it. I'm off the hook. No, I don't have to do this anymore. But this game of tennis demanded change, constant change and bettering myself, constant improvement, refinement. It was ingrained in me. And so in my post-tennis days, this drive for change and bettering myself and needing to be different perseverated. Where was I coming from? Not being good enough. I really didn't feel that I was good enough. I had no appreciation for who I was right now in the moment. There was never really any celebration of that in my tennis career. It was a brief win and then looking to, okay, now I've got to play the semi-final and then there's the final and then the tournament ends and then 2 days later there's the next tournament and then there's training in between, and then we're going to refine what wasn't quite working. And so it's this constant cycle of refinement, and for me, it was not being good enough and not celebrating the moment. So these days I'm a psychotherapist. I work with others and myself on an ongoing basis as to how to make sustainable change happen. I see so often clients trying to make change happen from the same place that I used to try and make change happen, from a place of self-loathing, from a place of rock bottom, from a place of not being good enough. And I see how unsustainable it is and unsatisfying, for the individual. Because coming from this base, even if you achieve the outcome, they're not good enough, perseverates. It's a cycle and a track. So you've probably heard the latest buzzword, epigenetics. It's not just a buzzword, it's a real scientific term. That epi, the Greek word for on top of or in addition to. So essentially what it speaks to, and you would have heard this, no longer can a client come in and say, oh, my grandmother has depression, my mother has depression, therefore I'm going to have depression. Because we have the ability to completely turn that gene off. I mean, here's an example of a brief piece of research. Vegans, close your ears, or rats, they draw the short straw with research, don't they? So essentially they got rats and they had them smell cherry blossom and then gave them electric shock. The rats then had offspring. And what happened was, actually, when the rats initially got the electric, they began to shake, okay? And then they had offspring, and what happened with the offspring, they didn't give them the electric shock, but they smelt the cherry blossom and they would shake. So there's the example. It's genetic coding being passed through. But we have the ability to turn that off. So genes they're like a switch, you know, you can turn them on and off. So why wouldn't you turn it off? It's like letting someone else operate your internal console. Right? It's like trying to sleep with the light on in the room. Turn the light off. It's up to you. So change is so possible, that's what I'm trying to say, but the right environment is so essential. Internal environment and external environment. So connect with your heart, have supportive friends, a self-loving environment. You know, get that inner critic out of there, work that piece. Research shows that if you want to make change happen and you become part of a group, and that group can just be one other person, you increase your ability to be able to change by up to 50%. It's by 50%. It's huge. And that's essentially what we're doing here today. We come to get, you know, loved up by these guys and loved up by you and help us to make change happen and do things differently. Had my tennis career been like this, I'm sure it would have been a very different story than I'm telling you today. But really, this self-loving environment, it really is the key to sustainable change. So go for it, go for change, challenge yourself, and love you as you are right now. Celebrate you right now, right where you are, and then leverage off of that.